Hey guys, Josh here. Today we are going to be previewing the 2015 to 2016 Formula E Championship. The first round then of the 2015 to 2016 Formula E Championship gets underway this weekend in Beijing. I'd highly recommend you guys check it out if you've never seen Formula E before. It's an absolutely amazing motorsport, only the second season as well, so much to be learnt. Quite a few changes as well for this year, with the teams finally being able to develop their powertrains. So we are going to see probably a bit more of a spread out field. You know, we're probably not going to see the same amount of unpredictability as we saw in Season 1, but we should see, you know, still a lot of excitement, and it should be really good racing. You know, of course, more established drivers and teams, but still a lot of mystery. You know, make no mistake, there's going to be a lot of, you know, failures, certainly to do with the powertrains, with the teams finally being able to develop them. You know, we're going to have, I think, a few teams struggling to really get off the mark, and maybe some teams have gone the completely wrong way with the powertrain, and maybe one team just gets it completely right and dominates. But, you know, we're going to have to see. We've got an interesting mix as well, because we actually have two teams who are running the 2014 to 2015 powertrain, and that is Amlin Aguri and Team Aguri. Sorry, not Amlin Aguri, Amlin Andretti, sorry, and Team Aguri. Yeah, that's one of the team changes for you right there. Amlin and Aguri have both split. Aguri have gone into their own team called Team Aguri, and Amlin are now partnered with Andretti. I think Amlin Andretti should be a really strong team. I'm not sure though if that powertrain is going to let them down really. You know, you're running a year-old powertrain. You know, maybe in terms of reliability might help them, but you kind of guess though in terms of pace, they're really not going to be there. But let's talk about who's going to be on the money then, who's going to be winning Beijing, who's going to be winning the overall championship. Let's start off by talking about Lucas di Grassi, who seems to be a bit of the hot favourite really. Of course, had a really good year with Abt last season, didn't quite win the World Championship, but you know, they kind of fell away a bit at the end, but they were very consistent. You know, Abt are a really decent team, you know, with the backing of Audi, so you would think they should be very strong this year. Once again, of going with Daniel Abt and Lucas di Grassi, a bit of stability there, so I think di Grassi is going to be really pushing for the Drivers' Championship. I think Daniel Abt did not have the best year last year, so let's see what he can do this season. But yeah, Lucas di Grassi is definitely one to watch, and he'll be wanting to wrestle the championship off Nelson Piquet Jr., who of course is the current holder of the championship. His China Racing squad then once again going with Oliver Turvey, of course, who made an appearance in the final round of the 2014 to 2015 championship. And this is a really interesting one, because Oliver Turvey was very quick in London. He was pretty much matching Nelson Piquet and on occasions beating him. So I'm really interested to see this season, you know, can Oliver Turvey possibly even beat the World Championship? You know, the holder of that Drivers' World Championship, Nelson Piquet. You know, that's going to be a really interesting dynamic, and really, you know, don't count out Oliver Turvey, because he could certainly be a title contender. He's very experienced in motorsport, not particularly in single seaters, but you know, it is very interesting to see him in Formula E. Of course, a McLaren test driver. He's very experienced. So Oliver Turvey definitely one to watch out for. And you know, if he carries on that great form from London, there's no reason why he couldn't be beating Nelson Piquet Jr. on a few or maybe even most occasions. Let's move on to one of the other main title contenders then, and that's Sebastian Buemi in the EDAMS team. Alongside Nicolas Prost then for another season. These two are a really strong lineup, you know, one of the strongest lineups of season 1 by far. Sebastian Buemi, of course, vastly experienced, as is Nico Prost. Prost was one of the best drivers in Formula E early on, but it soon fell apart really, and Sebastian Buemi just came into his own after getting off to a pretty rough start to the season. Buemi was certainly one of the fastest drivers in the second half of the season, so if he can continue that into the first half of this year and build up a bit of a lead, then get into the races that you really enjoyed last year, you'd have to predict Buemi to be one of the main title contenders. Of course, it was di Grassi, Piquet and Buemi, the three title contenders last year, but I think, you know, kind of factored into that as well this year is going to be Sam Bird. He should be very strong. He's got Jean-Eric Vergne as a teammate as well, so Virgins by far have one of the most interesting and certainly probably one of the most popular and fastest driver lineups. Also Mahindra as well, and a similar kind of vein. They've gone with Nick Heidfeld and Bruno Senna. So Heidfeld making the switch from Venturi to Mahindra. Mahindra had quite a bit of bad luck last year, and we didn't really see the full pace from Senna or Chandok. But I'm really hoping their luck is going to turn, and Senna and Heidfeld can get Mahindra up into the kind of top area of Formula E. Of course, Mahindra, a very established motorcycle team, but this is kind of their first proper year in single seaters. Of course, I mean, last year was their first proper year in single seaters. This is only their second, so going to be interesting to see what they can do. Certainly a very popular team, but is that going to help them in terms of pace? Of course, probably not, unless of course they win the fan boost. But yeah, should be a good year for both Mahindra and Virgin, especially Virgin. I think could definitely be title contenders if Sam Bird can just be a little bit more consistent than he was last year, because on his day he was by far one of the quickest guys out there last season. So going to be very interesting to see what Sam Bird can do, and also his teammate Dronic Verne. He might have one eye on F1, and depending if he does make the move. If he doesn't, he should be one of the main title contenders, as long as he doesn't get as much bad luck as he did last season. Similarly with Nick Heidfeld, of course. Don't think Heidfeld's quite title contender, but certainly for the odd race win and podium. As with Dronic Verne, if he does do a few Formula 1 races, I do believe it clashes with 2, he's going to have to miss those. Let's move on to talk about Amelin Andretti though, and their drivers for this season are Robin Freins and Simone Di Silvestro. So a very cool lineup. Robin Freins, of course, one of my favourite young drivers really, and I was gutted when he never got into Formula 1, but it's really good to see him in Formula E instead with the Amelin Andretti team, who should be very strong. Andretti were by far one of the best teams last season, but couldn't quite capitalise it. They had so many driver changes as well, but I'm hoping Freins and Simone Di Silvestro are going to be staying around. Silvestro is hugely talented. I do believe she's the only female in the series as currently, and certainly I think the fastest one they've had. In my mind, is the fastest female in motorsport, just generally in any series really. Is a great ambassador, has done a great job in IndyCar, and I'm really excited to see her this year in Formula E. I think she's going to be able to do great things. So I probably would expect her to come out on top just due to her experience, but we could see Robin Freins up there as well. It's going to be very interesting to see how this whole team kind of works out. Like I said before, that year-old powertrain is going to be very interesting to see how competitive they are, but I really hope they will be competitive. Let's move on to talk about the next team then, Team Aguri, of course, the team that split away from Amelin, and this year then they've gone with Antonio Felix da Costa and Nathaniel Berton. So yeah, Felix da Costa then kind of staying with the team. He was kind of with the team before. Good to see him staying on. A really talented driver. Of course, currently racing in DTM. I'm not sure if any races do clash or if that hasn't been announced yet. So I do hope we do see da Costa in every single round, because he should be, right up there as always. He did a fantastic job for Amelin Aguri last season. So let's hope he can do a good job for the new Team Aguri team this year. Nathaniel Berton is his teammate, of course, raced in GP2 for about the last 4 years. Not the fastest driver in GP2, but there's no reason why he can't go into Formula E and do really well. Of course, very experienced in single-seater racing. For in terms of young drivers go, he's pretty experienced really. So I'm excited to see what Berton could do. He's got a bit of a following as well, but I don't think he's going to be able to match up to da Costa, and might find himself at the back of the grid. But we'll have to see. I'm not even sure if he will be around for the I'm going to make a quick prediction now and saying he's not going to be around for the whole season, but we're going to have to see. Just a bit of a hunch I've got at the moment. Let's move on to the last couple of teams then. We've got Dragon Racing then, of course, who have come with Loic Duval and Jerome D'Ambrosio, of course, just retaining the great lineup really from last season. I mean, Jerome D'Ambrosio, had a good first half of the season, very consistent, kind of just went about his business really, away from the spotlight. Not many people really probably even knew he was in the series, to be honest, because he was so kind of quiet, not really making too much impact in the first few races. But then in the second half, he was one of the quickest guys in the series and was so consistent, and actually mounted a bit of a title challenge really towards the end of the year. Had there been a few more races and a couple more things gone his way, D'Ambrosio could have been right up there. So I'm fully expecting him to be right up there this season. He was very talented in the second half of the season. Let's hope he can continue that for the sake of Dragon. Loic Duval as well, a very excited and experienced driver. I think he'll be very good as usual. I think like last year, D'Ambrosio should have the slight edge, but I think Duval should have a really good year. He's a Le Mans winner, I do believe he is. So yeah, very experienced in that kind of way, and it can be very interesting to see how Dragon get on. Should be, again, maybe one of the main title contenders. It's kind of hard to tell. With so many teams really in there, it's impossible really. We're not going to know until Friday, because if you guys missed the announcement, there is actually going to be an extra practice session on the Friday from now on. So pretty interesting. We should be able to see who's on top there. In terms of where Dragon are be, it's going to be tough. I think they're going to be, near the front. certainly. One team though I don't think are going to do quite, not very well this season, sadly, is Trulli. I do like them, they're a really, really good team on Twitter. You guys can follow them if you haven't already. But they have gone with Luizzi and Duran this season, and completely messed that up in the background. But yeah, Luizzi and Salvador Duran then, maybe, possibly not the strongest lineup. I've never been a fan of Antonio Luizzi, and I can't even pronounce his name properly, so I do apologise for that. But Salvador Duran I'm a massive fan of. He's a great driver in my opinion. Certainly not the fastest, but he's very resilient, very good at overtaking, and will pick up those points when you least expect it, really. So I think Trulli are probably the outsiders really for this year's championship. Possibly might be fighting. If I had to make a few predictions for who's going to be at the back, I'd have to say the likes of Trulli and Team Aguri. I think are going to be the two teams battling at the back. Mahindra probably not too far, it's kind of probably, quite far down, not too far away from the back. Venturi possibly as well, it's kind of tough to say where they'll be. And, quite a few unknowns really for where everybody's going to be. But yeah, talking of Venturi then, let's talk about one of the biggest signings really for this year's championship, and that was Jacques Villeneuve, of course, the 1997 Formula 1 World Drivers' Champion. He's alongside Stefan Sarrazin. Very, very interesting lineup. I'm not sure he's going to be the fastest guy, but, I think, I'm not even sure if he's going to complete the season, but great for Formula E, the first world champion to take part, first F1 world champion, to take part in Formula E. He's alongside Sarrazin, very talented driver, was great in the second half of the last season, so hopefully he will be good. Finally, haven't we? So we can make our predictions now. That was very, very tough, to predict this, judging, well, by the fact we have nothing really to judge it on. But if I had to say one name, I'm going to have to say Lucas di Grassi. I think, according to what I read and that I've been reading online, who I think is going to be fastest, and the reports coming out of the Formula E paddock, it seems like Abt might have the best powertrain. So I'm going to say Lucas di Grassi. He's a very talented driver, adapted to Formula E, probably one of the best out of anybody, alongside Nelson Piquet Jr. I don't think Piquet Jr. is going to be able to retain his title, though. His eyes have wandered elsewhere, and I'm not sure if he'll be able to even beat Turvey. So, going to be very interesting to see what's going to be happening, of course, starting this weekend. But, yeah, my prediction then is going to be Lucas di Grassi for the Drivers' Championship, and let's say Edams for the Constructors' Championship. Buemi is going to be right up there as well. It's going to be very, very close between Buemi and di Grassi in my eyes, with Sam Bird also could be up there, maybe John McVern as well. Really a multitude of drivers could be up there. It's going to be so interesting. You have to tune in this weekend. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. Of course, all the action taking place on the Saturday usually, but there is an extra practice session on the Friday. But yeah, all the main action in terms of qualifying the race will be taking place on Saturday morning, so definitely worth getting up for that. So you guys can leave your predictions down in the comment section below. Hope you guys have enjoyed this quick preview of the season, mainly just focusing on the drivers. Nothing too much really to say about the calendar. Pretty much basically the same as last year, but we have got a race in Paris instead of Monaco. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my preview then. Like I mentioned before, be sure to put your predictions for the 2015 to 2016 Formula E season down in the comment section below. Until next time guys, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.